One of the most common questions I get doing what I do here is, where should I look when buying my first watch from Switzerland? Well, there are several great brands you can consider and should be in the conversation. One leader, if not the very best, is Tissot, combining 170 years of heritage with tasteful designs and some of the most compelling value propositions in Swiss watchmaking. In this video, I'll go through a comprehensive guide to the brand Tissot to give you a better idea of what to consider, what to look for, where to start when approaching this brand. So we have this video broken down into 4 key parts. The first is going to be some backstory, understanding where Tissot came from and what allowed them to be a powerhouse in the Swiss industry. Number 2 is then looking at some of the model families and major points around each one of them. Number 3 is looking at some of the different movements that the brand is going to utilize and getting into some of the details allow each movement to separate from the other. And to conclude, we'll look at some of the top picks from the brand, looking at some genre of watches and what are the standouts that Tissot delivers. To fully understand the heritage and core design language that so often informs Tissot's modern collection, it's important to take a step back and recognize the brand's noteworthy history in the world of Swiss watchmaking. With roots dating back to 1853, as is referenced by many of their modern dials, Tissot was founded by Charles Félicien Tissot and his son Charles-Émile Tissot in Lalac, Switzerland. In its early years, Tissot developed a reputation for producing reliable and accurate pocket watches, often in gold cases. Like many other watchmakers during this era, many of Tissot's earliest efforts included assembling complete watches from components that had been sourced from other manufacturers throughout the region. Starting in the late 1850s, Tissot began widely distributing its watches in Russia, with Tsar Nicholas II famously taking delivery of his own pocket watch from Tissot in 1904. In 1918, Tissot ascended to true manufacturer status, creating its own collection of in-house calibers with an emphasis on mass production. Jumping ahead to 1930, a couple of milestones would help to shape the brand's future as well as the landscape of modern watchmaking. Along with unveiling one of the world's first watches with anti-magnetic properties, Tissot joined forces with Omega to form SSIH. In many ways, this partnership in 1930 cemented the groundwork that would later blossom into the modern Swatch Group in 1983. In the meantime, Tissot's mid-century collection expanded impressively in the arena of automatic winding calibers, chronographs, and mass-producing one of the first watches to display 24 time zones with the original Navigator in 1953. The 1970s and 80s saw experimentation into quartz offerings, digital watches, and different case materials including plastic, granite, pearl, and wood, as well as the founding of Tissot's official relationship with many different racing organizations. Today, positioned beneath the Swatch Group's impressive lineup of brands, Tissot serves as not only one of the group's entry doors into the world of Swiss mechanical watchmaking, but also as a leader more broadly for the entire nation. Although the public data on total production is not definitive, it is safe to assume Tissot is one of, if not the largest producer of Swiss watches on a volume basis, while producing pieces that appeal to mass market and passionate collectors. So with this wide range of models starting under $300 to spanning up to a few $1,000s, I wanted to spend some time just giving a brief overview of some of these core model families. Now, for the record, Tissot is a massive brand and we won't be able to go through every single model out there, though I have probably handled and had more experience with Tissot watches. I mean, thousands of Tissot watches to this point, so I have a pretty good understanding of their key collections, and I want to go through some of those highlights that are more geared around enthusiasts and what they might look for. So with that being the case, there might be some small omissions, but this is going to get to the core of what I feel Tissot does exceptionally well. Also below is a comprehensive and helpful blog article that is in the description. That's going to list out some of our team's top picks from Tissot at a wide variety of different price points. Over 20 different models are chosen from the brand. They're put into that article. So if you want to really start with your research or trying to figure out what is out there and available to you from Tissot, so that'll be something available to you in the description down below. In addition, we will have another link down there where you can go ahead and shop around if you're at that stage in your research and journey. That will have a curated collection of Tissot watches on TeddyBaldassarre.com. So now let's kick us off, and at least for enthusiasts, the PRX represents Tissot's most important collection of the last decade, making it all the more impressive considering it was just launched a few years ago. Based on the Quartz C-Star reference from 1979, the PRX presented perfect timing on Tissot's behalf, leaning into the massive popularity being enjoyed by the integrated bracelet sports watch trend from high horology brands. Powermatic versions closely followed the initial 40mm quartz variants, with a range of 35mm options soon to follow. Since then, this collection has gone gone a bit crazy with a broad swath of dial colors, gold tone offerings, an automatic chronograph, and even a digital option to consider. While the model family has become one of the most discussed attainable Swiss watches on the planet, it's tough to deny what you get from the PRX with its excellent case and bracelet finishing, neat faceted indices, retro aesthetics, 100 meters of water resistance, and the choice of either quartz or Powermatic calibers. Next up is another go anywhere, do anything watch from Tissot with the Gentleman. With automatic variants launching as recently as 2019, the Gentleman has already jumped to the top of the enthusiast favorite category for Tissot, with one of our videos reviewing the Gentleman a few years ago now claiming over 1 million views, and that's the most I've ever received for a single watch, and a testament to how much this model is beloved. Available with both quartz and automatic variants, with the latter leaning into Tissot's Powermatic calibers with the extended 80-hour power reserves, the 40mm Gentleman also presents one of the best points of value for Swiss automatic watches, pairing refined yet versatile looks and excellent finishing across the dial and indices with 100 meters of water resistance. Speaking further to the Gentleman's Powermatic 80 caliber, in this instance you're getting an upgraded version of that movement with a silicone balance spring to alleviate the negative effects of magnetism on the movement, making it more professionally capable than many realize. To follow is Tissot's dive watch and sports collection. This is the Seastar. While its history kicks off in the 1950s with water-resistant but dressier-looking watches, the Seastar name today denotes Tissot's collection of diving-capable watches, including some ISO 6425 compliant references that are theoretically suited for professional diving needs. It starts with a few quartz 36mm references oriented more around women and then priced around $400. The modern Seastar for most enthusiasts, though, is the 1000 Powermatic 80 that offers a 43mm case, 300 meters of water resistance, a ceramic bezel insert, effective luminescent material on the dial and hands, and a Powermatic caliber well under $1,000. If you're looking for something even more extreme, there's also the ISO 6425 compliant Seastar 2000, a 46mm 600 meter offering with an intriguing wave style pattern dial, as well as a helium escape valve on its case side. In addition, there are also 40mm quartz models available, a 46mm automatic True GMT option, and a range of quartz powered chronographs to discover in the Seastar range, with the majority of those coming at around $1,000, if not much lower. Next is a collection that feels specifically oriented towards the enthusiast crowd with the Heritage Collection. This is Tissot's home for modern recreations of popular or impactful vintage references from within the brand's archive that I was actually fortunate enough to visit in Switzerland a few years ago. Now, this collection has many different sub-collections or models to name underneath the broader umbrella. Some of the standouts are the 1938 models, including the telemeter chronograph, a recreation of a 1930s-40s design, as well as their 1938 three-hand models, which include both a small seconds variant and a center seconds variant. Notably with those center seconds versions, because they are more attainable, you're getting a Swiss chronometer or COSC certified movement, making it the most inexpensive Swiss chronometer watch that I am currently aware of that you can get for around $800 in the entire industry. Another line that is very popular within this collection is the Visidate. This is their classic looking dress watch looking back to the mid 20th century. And you'll also see this collection have some pops of color with something like the 1973 chronograph. So this next couple of collections here is going to be more oriented around dress pieces. I think there are a few pillars to look at within the dress collection of Tissot. You have the Carson, which I'll talk about a little bit less because these next two collections are more important historically speaking, but also are going to be products that have been recently updated and expanded on in the last couple of years. So a recently refreshed line from Tissot, we have the Chemin des Tourelles. So this is named for the street where one of Tissot's early factories was established and still exists today. The Chemin des Tourelles serves as a home for Tissot's most traditional and refined aesthetics, with an emphasis on finishing for the dollar amount. This collection has been around for a while, but the collection was totally revamped in the last year with a variety of case sizes, an updated dial design with neatly finished applied indices, excellent finishing across the central case and hands, a Powermatic caliber on the inside, and a much improved bracelet over the previous iterations. The line also comes with some different dial marking options, including Roman numeral configurations. The other key pillar for the dress category for Tissot is actually a collection that is one of the top 4 most important for sell-through for the brand, and that is the Lilac. Now this honors the city in which Tissot calls home, and in contrast to many Tissot collections, the Lilac relies heavily on traditional elements of watchmaking and includes a prioritizing of mechanical movements rather than quartz, showcasing a guilloche style pattern at their dial centers and seeing Roman numeral markings. The collection is also one of the most inexpensive of any of the mechanical watch offerings from the brand, starting at just over over $600. So this next category is kind of a catch-all because there's many you can include here, but I wanted to develop a catch-all genre here for all of the Tissot quartz-powered collections. So if you're looking for the most inexpensive Swiss-made watch, one of the places you should look is Tissot's quartz offerings, as these really serve up as one of those key entry points for not only just Tissot, but an entire nation's watchmaking. They utilize ETA calibers and develop a mass appealing and inoffensive design style that'll make them great for versatile everyday scenarios. Some of the ones I will give a mention to is the Everyday PR100. This is a watch that retails under $300, comes with a sapphire crystal, and delivers 100 meters of water resistance. Another popular line is their entry-level chronograph known as the Chrono XL. These fit the name with their larger cases, though are among some of the most attainable Swiss-made chronographs on the market, being powered by an ETA caliber. And to close out our collections, we have the more bold and daring pick with the Citadel. This collection was revisited in 2023 and presents a compelling set of specifications and a rare material choice for its price range. Closely based on a water sport themed 1971 reference from the brand that marked its first use of a fiberglass case, the modern Citadel has a forged carbon case, 300 meters of water resistance, and a Powermatic caliber on the inside. Along with that, it comes with one of the most comfortable rubber straps on the market, while also showcasing one of the most interesting displays of lume in the price category. Now this is part 3. This is where I want to spend some time talking about the calibers that are going to be seen inside many Tissot watches. So the first and most popular movement that you will see inside Tissot watches, it's been used millions of times, is the Powermatic 80. So the Powermatic 80 actually spans a variety of different versions, but at their core, they share a similar premise on taking an ETA 2824 caliber that is modified heavily to drop the beat frequency from 4 Hz or 28,800 vibrations per hour to 3 Hz, 21,600 vibrations per hour. This drop in frequency allows the power reserve to extend to 80 hours instead of 38 hours of its base. Apart from the modifications to the beat frequency in the gear train, the balance assembly and regulator system is also changed from an Etachron regulator to being more of a free-sprung balance architecture, a balance setup that is often preferred by luxury watchmakers for its ability to be less prone to the negative effects of shock. This change in the balance has led to some confusion about these movements not being able to be regulated. This is actually not true, but it would be correct to say that it is more involved in its process, where it would make it necessary to move screws on the delicate balance wheel. So in other words, an amateur probably wouldn't want to take on this activity. Further, there's also confusion around whether these calibers are serviceable. The answer is they are. These are movements that are not to be confused with something like the System 51, which are not developed with long-term serviceability in mind. This said, it is common for Tissot, given that their prices for servicing are cheaper than a traditional ETA 2824 service, they might opt for replacing the caliber altogether to keep the cost and turnaround time down for consumers, instead of going for a complete teardown and cleaning of the entire caliber. Now with those points out of the way, let's discuss each of the Powermatic 80 calibers and their distinct differences. Now, as we prepare to try to draw these lines of distinction, it is important to also know the formal naming conventions for the Powermatics. The Powermatics follow the labeling convention of C07 dot, with the following 3 digits to follow determining the level of the caliber. Starting with the C07.111, this is the base Powermatic utilized in the PRX, the Lilac, the Chemin de Toral, and others. The main differences with the entry-level Powermatic is that it utilizes a couple select non-metallic synthetic escapement components, to be more exact, the escapement wheel and the anchor. The calibers also utilize a proprietary material for the swatch group known as Nivicron for its balance spring, the most delicate part of the watch and one of the most difficult components to manufacture. Now, Nivicron is a special titanium-based alloy that is resistant and patented by the swatch group and has 3 key benefits. One is that it's going to help alleviate the adverse effects of magnetic fields, further enhances the caliber's shock resistance, and finally will enable more stable oscillation during temperature changes. Now moving on to the next is the C07.611. The 611 version is more commonly seen from brands like Hamilton, Mito, Certina, and doesn't typically find its way into Tissot watches. I bring it up here primarily as a way to merely state how it is different, which is going to be its traditional escapement wheel and pallet fork, while having 25 joules as opposed to the .111's 23 joules. And then you get to the final tier of the C07 calibers with the .811. This movement does find itself in Tissot's collection, most notably with the Gentleman, and is the main reason for its elevated price point compared to other automatics from the brand. The 811 follows the premise of the 611, but instead of a Nivicron balance spring, it utilizes a balance spring made of silicium, which is famous for its anti-magnetic properties. This caliber is also probably the easiest to identify when you show off the case back here, because you'll see that SI sitting next to the balance to indicate the silicon balance spring. In general, the Powermatic movements are among the most used in entry-level Swiss watchmaking, and I have quite literally spent time with thousands of watches powered by them. They are reliable and robust while helping to set a new standard in power reserve across the entire industry with 80 hours. That said, Tissot does not just rely on Powermatic calibers, especially considering that they have this access to the broader ETA catalog, being a member of the Swatch Group. For automatic chronographs like the Tissot PRX chronograph or the Telemeter 1938, Tissot utilizes the venerable Valjoux 7750 or 53 depending on the register layout. In the case of the PRX chrono, Tissot uses what ETA calls the ETA A05.H31. It's a subtly modified version of the 7753 with its horizontal 3-register layout that keeps the 4 Hz frequency while extending the power reserve to 60 hours. In the case of the Telemeter 1938, we're looking at ETA's A05.231, a dual register 4 Hz chronograph caliber offering a very solid 68 hours of power reserve, as well as coming with a Niverchron balance spring. In either case, an integrated automatic chronograph caliber for around $2,000 represents leading value. In addition to these modified or otherwise upgraded ETA calibers, Tissot routinely also uses some of ETA's most ubiquitous calibers, including the ETA 2824 in the case of the Heritage 1938 COSC, or the 2895 in the case of the Small Seconds Heritage version, with both offering an impressive COSC certification in the process, meaning that the calibers have also been subjected to COSC's independent testing standard and guarantee of a level of accuracy daily between -4 to +6 seconds a day. There are also a number of smaller ETA calibers used in select women's-oriented automatic Tissot models, but it would appear that in most of those instances, it's going to be an unmodified direct carryover from ETA's regular offering. So now let's look at some of the top picks from Tissot. Again, somebody that's handled thousands of watches from this brand. I've helped many people buy their first Tissot watch, so I know a thing or two about maybe some places to look. So I have just some general picks based on what style of watch you would go for. For a dive watch, I think it's a pretty easy choice here. I'd recommend the C-Star 1000 Powermatic 80. You probably could also mention the C-Star 2000 here, but I think for its size and also being more of a professional diving standard watch, the 1000 probably is better for everyday wear. When it comes to the entry point for the brand, what is some of the best places to look? I'd be looking at some of the quartz offerings from the PRX or the Gentleman, as well as something like the PR100, which will actually bring you in at the lowest price point of any of the watches really kind of mentioned here at under $300. For the best everyday options, I think you have two standouts that really separate themselves. One is going to be the PRX, but also the Gentleman. Really what you're going for with the PRX is the integrated steel sports design. How much do you like that? For the Gentleman, you're getting more of a dress orientation without having so much reliance on the bracelet, while getting an upgraded movement in the process with that .811 there. That said, you are paying a bit more for that. For chronographs, which this is an area that I don't think enough people give Tissot respect for, if you're looking for a fully integrated Swiss-made movement for a chronograph in the entry-level price arena, Tissot offers some of the best in all of the industry. For that, you have a couple to look at. You have the Tissot Telemeter 1938 coming just above $2,000, and then the PRX chronograph actually being that entry door for a Swiss mechanical chronograph from the brand, sitting underneath $2,000 at the time of recording this video. For dress watches, there's a lot to choose from here. I would say if I had to sum it down to a few, I'd go for the 1938, the Chemende Terral collection, as well as the Lelac. For another honorable mention, I will also include the Visidate. That was a model that was beloved before it started to expand out in case sizes to 42 millimeters compared to the previous case size that was much smaller. And then you have your oddball pick. I think the Citadel is probably going to be the one here. You have a unique case material. The lume in its layout is quite different. You have a regatta timer. There is a lot going on here. It's weird, it's funky. It's not going to be for everybody, but if you want that kind of pop of color and something different from a brand, which I think is always important, I think major brand has that one kind of quirky watch that maybe has a following. This would be the one that I would recommend in this case. But all right, guys, that's all we have for this video. Things to know before you look at Tissot. That rhymed beautifully, and I'm glad that worked out. If you enjoyed the video, though, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Really do appreciate it. Helps us here in letting us know what you guys want to see in the future. Are there other brands that you'd like us to do a similar style video for after this? If so, leave a comment down below. Also, in addition, definitely check out teddybaldassarre.com, full authorized dealer of over 30 brands, including Tissot. Quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support, and a full factory warranty for all the products that we offer. And how we're able to fund all of our productions here is through selling watches. So if you are in the market for a watch, we'd love to have your business. You know you can buy a watch pretty much anywhere nowadays, but it allows us to keep doing what we're doing here, and we love what we do. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.